I really am very excited to come and be able to spend the time with you here today. My name is Tony Peterson. Many of you have seen me before here. I come every year. I absolutely love coming and doing this event with Lance. I wish he'd invite me back for more and more of them. I would be here every other month if I could. Arizona is my home. I love Arizona. I wish that I still lived here, but I don't. As he said, I am now in Atlanta. I am the product manager over Medisoft. I have been with Medisoft for, it was about 12 years now. And so it's been a long time, and it's been a real fun road for me. My job here today is to show you the new things that are coming with Medisoft version 17. We are very excited about many of the things that are coming in 17. But the first part of what I'm going to share with you, I will admit, is very, very boring. The first part of what I have to share with you today has to do with ANSI 5010. It is not the world's most exciting topic. It's not one that there's a lot of glamour around, other than the fact that it guarantees that you're going to continue to get paid as the regulatory changes come into effect. ANSI 5010 is a regulatory change that will be taking effect over the next year. We're in the testing phases of it right now. It is a new method of submitting electronic claims. And this method is going to be required for everybody who sends electronic claims. How many of you send your claims electronically? How many send them on paper? 1 or 2, 3? There's not very many people sending on paper, meaning ANSI 5010 does affect all of you in one way or another. ANSI 5010 is a change that is made in preparation for ICD-10, which is coming a few years later. ANSI 5010 has changed the types of data that need to be sent in order to get a valid electronic claim to the insurance carrier. There are new fields that are necessary in order to get certain claims paid. There are certain circumstances where clearinghouses, including ours, will tell you, oh, you don't need to worry about upgrading your software. We're going to convert everything up for you, which in a lot of circumstances is true. They will be converting data up for you from 4010 to 5010. However, there are certain fields that are related to the patient specifically that are brand new with 5010. That Medisoft doesn't have a place to store in older versions. So if there's a patient-specific piece of data that can vary from patient to patient, and it doesn't exist in the old version of the electronic claim, there's not a real elegant way for a clearinghouse to convert that up for you in every circumstance. Sometimes they have to assume, sometimes they have to ask you as you upload the claim, for each patient by patient, what you're going to be specifying for those fields. And getting on a version of Medisoft that has all of those fields, regardless of where you send your claims, will ensure that your claims are going to be paid the first time on all of the claims. A clearinghouse may be able to convert up 90–95% of your claims from 4010 to 5010, but think about what that 5% of claims means. If you have $500,000 in claims that you send out, 5% rejection rate, it's $50,000. That's a lot of money. 25,000, it might be, my math might be wrong. It's 25 or 50. Either way, it's a whole lot more than an upgrade costs. So think about that. If you're going to get 95% conversion rates up and be successful on 95% of them, is that 5% of rejections not worth having all of those fields there? So I'm going to take you through and show you some of the changes that are there, and then we'll take you through some other changes that we've made. And I am using a computer that is not mine, so forgive me as I try to navigate through it. The first change that we're going to show you has to do with the practice information. And the reason that I show you this is not that I expect anybody to win the Enthusiasm Award off of this particular screen, but I want to point out some particular things. The first thing that you'll notice on the practice information screen that is different from version 16 to version 17 is that we've added a phone extension and an email address. Now these fields existed in 4010. As we were doing the 5010 analysis for Medisoft, we found gaps in our ability to create a 4010 claim. So we wanted to make sure that you had all the fields that you would possibly need in order to submit a valid claim in either the 4010 or 5010 format. So we added these two fields to your practice information screen to ensure that you could include those. Those were available in 4010. One of the reasons that we did that specifically with email is that we believe that the method of communication in the healthcare industry is moving more and more towards electronic communication versus voice. And so having the ability to specify an email address on a practice level was very important. In previous versions of Medisoft, the only email addresses that we stored were the doctor's email addresses. But if an insurance carrier is corresponding back to you regarding a claim, we don't believe that the doctor's going to be the one that they're going to want to contact. There's an office manager or somebody else in the office, and a billing manager, that you'll want to correspond with the insurance carrier. And that's where we're giving you a practice level email address to specify who in the practice you want that correspondence to go to. Moving on to the patient. I'm going to ask you some questions to see if you remember how Medisoft did some things in the past. So here on patient Dwight again, you're going to see a whole lot of new fields. The first one I want to focus on is the patient's death date. How did Medisoft store the death date in version 16 or earlier? A death status? There's not a death status date anywhere in Medisoft before. Who of you have submitted claims with the death date on it? Do you remember where? Medisoft in previous versions stored the death date was pulling off of the total disability to date. Now, is totally disabled the same as dead? No. If you're dead, you're totally disabled, but the opposite is not always true. Additionally, we thought that it was wrong to be storing the date of death on a case level. If a patient dies, they are dead for all of their cases, not just one of them. So we have pulled that out and changed Medisoft up so that you're tracking the patient's death date, not through some case-by-case basis on a field that doesn't really apply. We've added a death date here, and that will apply to all the cases that are there. The next field is another one that we have had a lot of problems with over the years. And that is for those of us who have lots of patients with the names junior, senior, the third, the fourth. Who likes sending those claims? Who dislikes sending those claims? All right. So, how did you send them in the past? A comma after the last name, or sometimes an asterisk after the last name, then junior, and sometimes that throws off the rest of the ANSI file because you're adding a delimiter in there that shouldn't be there. Medisoft did not store the suffixes right. There was no field for you to have them at all. With version 17, we pulled that out into its own separate field right up here after last name. There's a new suffix field that is there. This is critical because the insurance carriers expect the patient name to match identically on the claim with what is on the insurance card. There is a separate field in ANSI for that, and Medisoft will now allow you to enter that. This next one I have a hard time explaining in a politically correct way. So I will let you have your own explanations for it. I'll just tell you what we did. In ANSI 5010, there is a new value that you can put for the patient's gender. There is male, female, and unknown. So it's a value that is available in ANSI 5010, and in the spirit of making sure that you can submit any type of claim that is necessary for ANSI 5010, we gave you unknown on the gender. When you will use that is up to you and your imaginations. The last three fields that I want to focus on are down here by the death date. These are specific for meaningful use. How many of you are using an electronic health record right now? So there's a few of you. How many of you are planning on adopting one over the next few years? So you're doing so in a lot of cases hoping to get the money from the government, right? One of the rules for stage 1 meaningful use is that you capture specific demographic data for each patient that is coming into the office. With our electronic health record, the demographic data capture is all done through the Medisoft practice management system. So we needed to make sure that all the fields that were required by the government in order to receive the stimulus funds were available in Medisoft's practice management system and flowed across to the electronic health record through the HL7 messaging. Those fields that did not exist before that we have added are race, ethnicity, and preferred language. These values are determined by the US Census Bureau. They're drop-down values, so if you don't like the ones that are there or you need some other ones, then you can take it up with the government. We copied exactly what they were allowing in these particular fields. On race, you've got any of a number of values that are here. Ethnicity, you've got Hispanic or non-Hispanic, and then there's a list of preferred languages. If it's not there, we gave you another. So these values are specifically there to allow you to meet meaningful use. Moving on from the patient into the case, there were a lot of changes that were made to the case. For this, the first one that I'd like to focus on is here on the Policy 1 tab, and it is the relationship to insured. This particular value is one of the few places where ANSI 5010 is requiring less values. So this field will allow less values to be entered into it with 5010 than were in 4010. So what we've done with version 17 is reorganized this so that the top portion of it has the values that are available in 5010. We moved all the ones that are going away with 4010 down to the bottom of the list, and once 4010 is completely deprecated, we'll remove those out of Medisoft. With Medisoft version 17, we will allow you to submit both a 4010 and a 5010 claim, so you can meet whatever requirements the carriers have, but we wanted to organize that in a way that the most relevant ones were up at the top. The next value that you'll see here on the Policy tab is the group name. We have received reports that there are carriers throughout the country that are starting to require a group name in addition to a group number, and not having that results in rejections. So Medisoft 17, we've added that in so that if the carriers start requiring that, you have the ability to enter it, you don't get rejections, you get paid on time. That is available across all three policy tabs. Moving over to Policy 2, there's a new field that you see right here, and it is grayed out. We're going to have a little logic quiz here after I talk about what this field is. The name of the field is Medicare Secondary Reason, and this is where you are specifying the reason that Medicare is the secondary carrier. So, why is that field grayed out right now? Not required? Nope. Because it's not Medicare. That is exactly right. It is Aetna. Unless the carrier that you have selected here has a type of Medicare, that field is going to not be available to you because it is only applicable to Medicare as a secondary. So if we went through and chose Medicare as a secondary here, we would then be able to go through and specify exactly why Medicare is the secondary carrier. Another change that you're going to see with version 17 is when we have drop-down values, we're including both the English equivalent and the ANSI value. We want to include both of those values because you may get a rejection back from a payer saying, we need you to place value 14 in this loop and segment, and you don't know which one is 14 if we just have the English equivalent up there. Conversely, you don't necessarily know to type a 14 if you mean to put no fault insurance, including auto, is primary. So we want to give you both of those values to allow you to work through rejections that come back from the payers a lot more easily.